I'm Robbie Astrove. I'm an environmental educator and arborist. I've been practicing conservation for about 10 years, and my specialization is in edible landscaping and fruit trees. Today we're going to plant a fruit tree and talk about how to care for it. The tools you'll need to plant your fruit tree is a good shovel, a nice spade with a sharp point. You also want to consider a mattock to get into some hard areas. I like the mattocks that have the straight side and the pointy side. You also want to get yourself a pair of very sharp and very clean pruners. We'll also need mulch, water, and the fruit tree. The best time to plant fruit trees is from October to March, when trees are dormant. That way, when spring happens, they're in the ground and ready to grow. When purchasing your tree, you're either going to get the tree as a bare root or a tree in a container like this one. Now, when you buy a containerized tree, there's a couple things that you want to look for that are very important. First of all, the condition of the roots. So when you're taking your tree out of the container, you can move it around in a circle, loosen up the root ball, and gently remove it from this container. You can see that it's been living in this thing for a very long time. So what's very important is to very gently and carefully give the root ball a nice massage. And what we want to find is the balance between breaking up the roots but not tearing them off. Make sure to get the bottom as well and go all the way around the tree. Now we've really given this tree an advantage to having roots growing out. When considering a site to plant your fruit tree, there's many things you need to think about. The most important is sun and shade. Ideally, you want to have 5 to 7 hours of sun, morning sun being the best. You also need to think about drainage, both for water but also airflow. And now we're going to start to plant the tree. Again, this was a bare root tree from the nursery, meaning that it came just like this, and it presents certain advantages. Mainly, we can place the tree and the roots exactly where we want it. So we need to be very generous with space that we give the tree. Again, great measuring tools. And I'm measuring to see how far and wide the hole needs to be. So it needs to be at least this wide. Planting your tree at the right height is the most important thing to keep in mind. When you're planting your tree, you want to note two things. Where do the roots start? And also the height of the grafting point. When you plant your tree, you want it to be 2 to 3 inches below the graft, about here, making sure that all the roots are underground. When digging your hole, we want to dig a bowl and not a hole. So make sure that it's shaped like an hourglass. And we want the hole to be nice and wide. That's because tree roots grow out and not down. So now that we have the hole initially dug, it's a good time to just check ourselves by placing the tree in the hole and seeing where the hole needs to be wider. Also an opportunity to check our depth. Again, we got all these great tools with us. So if the tree was planted right here, we could see already we are too deep. So we need to bump the tree up and make the hole wider. Now I did have to add some soil back into the hole. And because that loose soil is here, what we want to do is actually compact it and remove the air spaces. Additionally, I'm going to build what is called a root pedestal, this compressed, compacted little circle where the roots will actually sit on, and now we've prevented the tree from sinking down any further. So we're just going to go ahead and seal that in the pedestal with our hands. And now we can start to place the roots in the holes that we scored, just like that, over here, and now we're ready to start to fill the hole in. Again, I like to do everything by hand the first couple of times, breaking up some large clumps, and just get it to a point where the tree will stand by itself. It's important to get a nice wide mulch pile on your tree and to never bury the trunk, as the mulch does a really good job of holding moisture, but too much moisture against the trunk will lead to disease, rot, and decay. And now we're going to add at least 7 to 10 gallons of water directly on the root ball. And again, pouring nice and slowly, allowing the water to percolate. Pruning starts the very first day you plant your tree. That's because you want to start to train your tree to have strong form and architecture. Cherries, pears, and apples like to have a central leader system. So you're going to train one leader to be the main leader of the tree. Locate an outward facing bud, such as this one, and prune on an angle about 2 or 3 millimeters above it. And what the angle does is when water and rain falls, it nicely drains off the tree and does not collect at the bud union. And that again will protect the tree from disease. So next spring, when growth starts, a new shoot will grow outwardly in this direction, enabling more sun to come into contact with the main leader, which will produce more fruit in the coming years. So now that your tree is planted, the first 3 years of establishment are very important to care for your tree. You'll want to water during the growing season, which is spring through fall. Again, 10 gallons of water poured all at once a week. And at least twice a year, reapply your mulch nice and wide in a basin to collect water. And by doing that, you'll ensure to have healthy trees with lots of fruit.